all things health and all things that we can do to help our animals. This evening, I'm really excited to be talking about poultry, about backyard poultry. Apparently, during COVID, there's been a massive increase in the number of birds that have been bought for people to make sure that they've got some eggs. By the way, I almost forgot the NHS. Well done, everybody, to all our carers and all those people who are on the front line, the bin men, the people in the supermarkets, all those people. So fabulous. Sorry, I didn't forget you. I just got a bit ahead of myself. Poultry, backyard poultry. So what we're going to do, I've got a smorgasbord of things that we're going to do today. And so what I'd first like to do is go through the anatomy, the amazing anatomy of the chicken. And then we're going to talk a bit about management, because management is 90% of keeping birds healthy. Okay, so you're not here for management, you're here for gut and herb stuff, but I'm going to tell you about management nonetheless, because there's some interesting little nuggets that I've picked up over the years that I'm going to share with you. We're going to look at some diseases, some of the gut diseases that chickens get, and we're going to look at some of the treatments and what we can do about those, and then we're going to look at some of the favorite herbs that one can grow and give to your chickens if you're lucky enough to have a garden. Even if you haven't got a garden, some of these herbs you can get in the supermarket. So there you go. That's the plan, everybody. I'm going to just come back to this screen here, make sure everybody's here, or they're coming along at least. I've got a really great diagram there, and if I was very technologically with it, I would show you this. But I'm going to describe it for you because it's a fascinating journey. So from the front end to the back end of a chicken. So at the front, we've got the beak, obviously good for pecking and crushing insects and what have you. Any food material then comes down the esophagus, the gullet, just like us. But one of the clever things that chickens have done is they have produced a pouch in their esophagus, which they use to hold food so that they can feed it further down into the gizzard, the stomach, as it were, in their own time. Okay, so we kind of do that in that we use our stomachs as a pouch, but chickens do it slightly differently. So gullet going down into the crop, they call this pocket, and then from there, food is gradually passed through along the proventriculus, great name, whoever thought of that, into the gizzard. Okay, which is like our stomach, except it's much more muscly. It's like it's almost like a rugby ball. They're so tough. The French are very keen on them. I've seen them in a French restaurant, and I couldn't bring myself to eat them because they're not that attractive. But they say they're great to eat. So that's your gizzard, the ventriculus, the Sunday name, and which is why we have the proventriculus. Yes, before the stomach, the gizzard. And the clever thing, and you probably know this, but I'm going to tell you anyway, is that the chicken, because they haven't got any teeth, they thought, right, what are we going to do about this? So what they do is they swallow grit and stones and oyster shell, which is part of the management side of things that we do for our chickens, and they keep those in, which is quite a clever feat, in an organ which is supposed to dispel material. Okay, so that's the first remarkable thing, or maybe the second. Maybe the crop is the first remarkable thing, and the second is the fact that they can keep stones in there and not get blocked, their belly, their intestines blocked with stones. So from the gizzard, the small intestine is pretty much similar to yours and mine. You've got the duodenum and then the jejunum, called the jejunum because it keeps going after death, such that when you do a post-mortem, it's always empty. Jejun is kind of an old name for empty. Okay, so the jejunum, and then it comes down into the ileum. Okay, so exactly the same as you and I, and that's all about absorbing nutrients. Now, the really exciting stuff starts here. So where the ileum enters into the colon, yeah, you and I have a colon. We have a pretty big colon because that's where we do a lot of bacterial digestion. The chicken doesn't have a big colon, but it's made up for that because it has these two cecal pouches. They call them ceca, plural of cecum, and that's where all the really interesting bacteria live. This is why we have to be careful with antibiotics with chickens, because you can really cause a dysbiosis, a bacterial overgrowth, if you kill all the good bugs. Okay, so there's a short colon, and then another remarkable part about the chicken is that they pass eggs, urinary material, and fecal material all out of the same hole. Now, if that isn't great economy by Mother Nature, I don't know what is. So they're very, very clever things. And let me just come back here to some notes here. When we look at the food conversion ratio, that is to say, how many kilos of food do you have to eat in order to put on 1 kilo yourself? Chickens are some of the best. That funny mechanism, yeah, with the crop and the gizzard and the cecum and what have you, all adds up to a very, very efficient. For example, it takes a cow, they've got to eat 8 kilos of grassy foody material in order to put 1 kilo on. Yeah, 8-to-1 ratio. Pigs are much more efficient. They are a 3-to-1 ratio, 3 kilos in and they put on 1 kilo. But chickens are some of the best land animals for this, because they do a 2-to-1 ratio. Sometimes it's even better. It can get down to about 1.5, 1.6, but classically we call it about 2 in your average chicken on the average diet. So for every they can put on an entire kilo of body weight by just eating 2 kilos of food. So, you know, we think, you know, maybe chickens are not the cleverest creatures on the planet. However, they beat us hands down when it comes to feed conversion. Yeah, they are absolute specialists of making the most out of what they find. Okay, which is pretty just as well, because, you know, insects are take quite a lot of chewing and eating. Okay, so that's our anatomy, and that's what that when we're thinking of how we feed them and how we manage them, that's what we have to bear in mind. Management wise, I'm not going to bore you too much, but there's just a few little things that I've learned along the way. So chicken coops, make sure they're fox proof is a great idea. How do you make them fox proof? Either lift them off the ground or just make sure that they are robust enough so that if Mr. Fox comes along, he's not going to get them, or put a fence around them to make sure that Mr. Fox isn't, or Mrs. Fox isn't going to cause a problem. With our bird, I'm just looking out the window here, and there they are in the garden. With our birds, we use sawdust. Okay, we've got let's say a few specklies, and we've got what are the white ones? Can't remember the white ones. And we've got some bluebells. Okay, and the dog is called Bluebell as well, but they don't get confused, luckily. So chicken coops. So yeah, one, fox-proof, make them fox-proof. They've got to be, you know, good for the job, waterproof and not drafty. And also the perches. I've seen sometimes you get square perches in chicken coop. That's not a great idea because chickens like round branches. Yeah, when they roost, they like round branches because their feet will naturally go around it. So make sure there's really good curve to the slats within the coop. Okay, we use sawdust because it's innately slightly antibacterial. It mops up wetness and poop and all sorts, and it's fairly easy to clean. Okay, I'm not going to talk to you about making sure you've got something to the base of the coop is easy to take out and things, because that's pretty standard. What I will say is I have seen people getting mites in their coops, yeah, because they've waterproofed. They've kind of gone inside and they've sealed every nook and cranny, which means that there's a bit more moisture within the coop, and therefore that attracts the mites or gives an environment which is better for the mites. So beware a completely ventilation-free coop. Just a tip. You may not read that anywhere else. Okay, so that's chicken coops. That's just a few highlights of chicken coops. Feeders and drinkers. The easiest way is to use continual feeders. I mean, some people like to go out and feed the chickens every day. That's absolutely great. They've got to have food and water in front of them every day. And my suggestion is clean. If you've got a continual feeder, clean it frequently, every 2-3 days. And if you've got bowls, just clean them every day, okay? Because they get filled with poo and what have you, and they get spilt and what have you, okay? So that hygiene is really, really key. Let's have a look. I've put a few notes here. Oh yeah, if you're prone to frosts, make sure that the birds, make sure it's sufficiently insulated. It's got to be ventilated, but it's got to be insulated. And what we often do is we will try and have enough birds through the winter so that when they're all in there together, they're nice and snug, not overcrowded, but they're snug. And in the winter and in the summer, we're not too worried about the population density because they don't need to keep warm at night. Just a thought. If you can do anything to prevent access by wild birds, that's a good idea, so that you don't get transmission of disease. That's a really good idea. Health and husbandry. Get used to picking your birds up on a regular basis, because if they're losing weight, it's impossible to tell until they're really skinny. But if you get used to picking them up and just feeling the keel bone, the chest bone here, then if anybody's kind of running off because they've got parasites or they've got some kind of intestinal disease or any kind of disease, then you'll notice it and you'll be able to get on it much more quickly, which is obviously a good idea. The quicker you can get onto these things, the better. So check regularly for parasites. Yeah, checking for parasites. I mean, you'll see them because they'll when you get scaly leg, the legs go scaly, and you need to treat those. Diatomaceous earth would be a natural product to use on those things. Let's have a look. We're about 20 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. I must say that the good people at Verm-X have said that they are giving a 15% discount if you sign up for the newsletter, or if you put in the word in capital letters, live chat 15. If you put that into the voucher code when you check out, you'll get 15% off for no more effort than listening to me drone on about poultry for half an hour. So there you go. Live chat 15. That's where it's at. Okay, let's have a look. So eggs. I've got a few nice little things to talk about eggs, and then we'll talk about disease, and then we'll talk about herbs. I promise. we will talk about herbs. Collect your eggs every day, because if you don't, it can induce the birds to go broody, or they can start pecking at the eggs. And once they get into that, it's very difficult to stop them doing that. Don't wash your eggs, however mucky they might be. Allow the muck to dry and then brush it off. A toothbrush is really good for that. It's kind of firm enough but soft enough not to go through the shell. So that's really good. Eggs you can keep in the fridge for 6 weeks. Eggs don't last very long around here with everybody. So if in the fridge they last about 6 weeks, if they're just kept on the side, they'll only last properly for about a week or 10 days. So you have been told. How can you tell, if you've just got this random egg and you forgot to put a date on the egg? How can you tell? The answer is that if you put a fresh egg in water, you're not supposed to wash them. But if you're just having to tell which is the freshest, if you put the eggs in water, the fresh egg will sink to the bottom, and the less fresh egg has more gas in it, and therefore it will float. Okay, so that's how you'll differentiate. So the one that sinks the quickest is the freshest, so leave that, and the one that stays at the top, as long as it's not rancid, is the one to eat. Because fresh eggs, and I didn't know this, I was doing a bit of reading, fresh eggs are harder to peel than eggs that have been left for a few days. Yeah, so that's why some of these eggs, when they're hard boiled, obviously. So if you want to hard boil them, take an egg that's a wee bit older. If you've got fresh eggs, then those are the guys for poaching, frying, scrambling. Okay, and the older eggs for baking and quiches and hard boiling. Okay, there you go. I know nothing about cooking, but I just thought those were quite nice, kind of biological facts. Okay, so something I do know something about is diseases and diseases of the gut. And there's 4 main diseases that I'd like to talk to you about briefly. There's coccidiosis. We've got E. coli and other infections. We've got parasitic worms, and we've got sauerkraut. Okay, these would be some of the commonest gut problems that we see. Okay, so in no particular order. So coccidiosis is basically it's not bacterium, it's a protozoan. Yeah, so it's like the malaria bug, or it's like the leptospirosis bug. Okay, but it's not quite as bad as those things. However, if your chickens get an infection with coccidiosis and it's not treated quickly, and they continue to live in less than perfect, muddy, pooey, horrible conditions, it will just spiral out of control. Yeah, because they will poo coccidia onto the ground. They'll then ingest it when they're eating and clucking about. So coccidiosis can be avoided with good hygiene. Equally, good hygiene will more or less help you avoid the E. coli infections, the salmonella infections, and the campylobacter infections. Okay, these are 3 really common gut bugs. And so, you might be thinking, oh my goodness, I didn't realize chickens got salmonella or campylobacter. Yeah, they do. But you know what? Just don't let the children play with the chicken poo. That's it. And after you've been mucking out the chicken coop, wash your hands. So it's not difficult to keep the environment for the chicken as clean and fresh as possible, and protect yourself. Okay, your chickens are not a major threat to the livelihood of the country. Okay, if at all possible, I like my chickens to be free roaming. Okay, we've got an open garden. It's open to the road. It's open to the woods at the back here. literally the chickens can just walk out, and they do. They walk out into the woods, and then they come back, because I think that that's what chickens should do. Now, we're really lucky. We're living in a little village and what have you. But if you've got a garden, and you're in London, Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, if you can move the chicken run, the chicken hutch and the chicken run, if you can alternate that so that they've got access to fresh ground each time, that will allow the buildup of parasites and bacteria and infectious agents much less. Yeah, because soil kind of self cleanses. So if you can move them around the garden, even a small garden, then that would be a really, really good idea. It's kind of basic management that you're taught at vet college in second year. Parasitic worms, there's three key wormy worms. Ascaridia gallei, which will cause ill thrift. They'll get a bit squitty, or they'll get and they'll go off their food a bit and get a bit thin. Heterarchus gallinarum doesn't really cause a problem in itself, but it does propagate the bug which causes blackhead, which is an infection within the gut. And then they've got capillaria, which is not too bad in low numbers, but if you've got a lot, it's going to cause problems, especially in young birds or debilitated birds. The trick really for me is to use a good worming product. I like using Herbal products. I like using this stuff, to be honest, which is why I like it, because then you've got a continual freshening, a continual presence of herbs which help to promote gut hygiene. Yeah, keep your gut in really, really good shape, because the healthier your gut, the more you're going to be able to cope with any low levels of parasites that come through. The final disease is called sour crop, which is not unusual, and you can tell that the chickens have got sour crop because they'll get a big squishy crop. The crop is just here on the chicken on the right hand side. Yeah, so this is, you'll be able to see the chickens after they've eaten in the morning. They'll come around and they've got this one-sided bulge here, which is a great sign. If you feel that and it's squishy, it's not kind of full of food, it's actually full of gloop, then that's sour crop. And you'll notice, because they'll be a bit wan, and their comb might get a little bit pale, and they just look really miserable. They'll sit around and look like really hangdog. So the treatment, if worried, take them to the vet. But if you've got a few birds and you don't want to be going to the vets all the time, there is a treatment for sour crop, and all you need to do is very carefully, gently and respectfully turn the chicken upside down and let them just hang there. They will hang, okay? And then you just agitate gradually for a minute or two, and then the material within the crop will go bleh. They can't vomit, so all this stuff will just come out. And you need to do that for 2 or 3 days. And in between times, what we do with these, and we've cured chickens with sour crop, we use live yogurt mixed with apple cider vinegar, and we put that down the throat without drowning the chicken. We'll put those down the throat, say 2, 3, 4 times a day, in order to fight the bug. The bug is Candida albicans, which is what humans get and what babies get. Yeah, it causes white thrushy lesions in the mouth of birds. And if you look at the crop under in a post-mortem, you'll see it's this white thing. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to, as with thrush and humans, you're trying to change the dysbiosis, change that microbiome around so that you've got a healthy microbiome, and then all the good bugs can then take over once again. it is curable. It is curable without antibiotics. But if you've got any of these diseases with your birds and you're unsure at all, nip off to the vets, or at least give them a ring in these funny COVID times that we find ourselves in. Okay, so let's have a little look at some herbs. One of my favorite herbs, and if you could only grow one herb in the garden, it would be mint. So mint, it's very nutritious. It's very good for your for your digestion, which is why you have it in a curry house. You have mint imperials after your curry, and it's antibacterial, and it's a good thing to grow around the chicken hutch because rodents don't like it. Okay, rodents, rats don't like it. So if you can grow that, really easy to grow. Even I could grow it. If you don't want it taking over your garden, then plant it in a bucket, so that it can't go everywhere. But basically, mint is wonderful, and it makes great tea and everything else. It's in the Verm-X formulation. Okay, so it's a carminative and very good for calming the gut and helping with many of the gut functions, gut motility, immunity, and those nutrients. That are very, very good. Next one I would suggest is equally easy to grow and equally kind of ubiquitous and safe and what have you. It's oregano. Again, it's antibacterial, antiparasitic. It's a lot of vitamins, antioxidants. It's good. It's really quite antibacterial. Yeah, oil of oregano is a mighty remedy. Good for your immune health and good for respiratory health. Lavender. So if you grow lavender in the garden, I didn't say, with the mint and the oregano, you can chop it up and put it in with the feed with the birds, as you can with all but the lavender on my little list. So lavender is really good for two reasons. One, it's calming. So if you've got anxious birds or birds that have gone off lay or they're broody or something, you can hang lavender in the coop in order to have this calming effect. I kid you not. You know how lavender pillows and things like this works for chickens. So you just get your lavender herb, you dry it out, and you just put it into hang it within the coop. Plenty of it. Okay, it's anti-bug, anti-mite, wonderful stuff. Smells great, so you can't really go wrong. Comfrey, nipbone, commonly known as nipbone, you can also give to birds. You don't want to give loads of it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, but then it doesn't really grow for only grows during its own season. So it can be used, or if your birds go and help themselves to comfrey in your garden, because you've got a bit of a wild garden, well done you, then that's good. Yeah, comfrey is really very, very healthy indeed. It's very healing. It's very good for skin disease. You can make salves and things. If you have a look on Google, you can make salves for skin, for damaged skin and what have you. So yeah, really good. Couple more. I really like calendula marigold, because it's very good at repelling insects, repelling bugs and things. So again, you can grow it around the chicken coop, and the chickens can peck it because of the coloration. This reddy orangey coloration of the marigold. If your birds, and you and the birds can eat the flowers as well, marigold flowers, believe it or not, and it will turn the yolks really beautifully, a beautiful orange color. So I've seen that before, and it's really very beautiful. Super good for you. You can feed it. If you've got a bird who's got gut issues or any type of healing issue, then I would have them on calendula for a few weeks. Yeah, without a doubt, as well as food. Obviously, if you've got laying hens, you've got to feed them layer pellets. Okay, and the last one I'd like to just talk to you about thyme. Thyme is kind of similar to oregano and to mint and things. Thyme is in the Verm-X formulation, and it is a very cleansing, very aromatic herb. It's a herb which is very much beneficial to the bird's respiratory system. They've got their respiratory system is even more amazing than their gut, which is saying something, but that's for another day. Thyme, very, very, very good to have. You can dry it, hang it in the coop as well as an anti-insect preparation. They can act as herbal antibiotics. By giving them by mouth. If the gut is not quite right, you can use thyme in that way. But it spreads, so you have been warned that if you plant one corner of the garden with thyme, come back in a few years' time, you will have a lot of thyme on your hands. So, talking of thyme, let me have a look at where we are for live. Here we go. So talking of thyme, there we go. We're over, but that's okay. So it's all good. I must remember to say live chat 15, guys. We managed to get them to give us 15% off. So if you sign up for the newsletter, a lot of the detail that I've just gone through is actually on the newsletter. Yeah, I know, because Caroline and I wrote it in the last couple of days. It's quite a good one. It's really quite full. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. And there's some good references, some really nice references for books that you might want to read as well. So check that out. And live chat 15% off your next shop. So there you go. Let's just have a little look just to see whether Philippa Murphy says, don't tip them upside down. Their heart stops. No, it doesn't, because I've done it many times to many chickens, and they are going to die of sour crop if you don't evacuate that crop. So if you do it carefully and gently, then they're good. Right. Let's have a look. Any other things? Pineapple mint is very pretty, says Philippa Murphy. Fabulous. Bergamot, I think should be okay. Yeah, I think so. Marigold deepens the yolk. It certainly does. That's the case. Maria Christofi says, this is a practical question. Can I watch this back? Yes, you can. If you go to the Verm-X Facebook page, you'll see it there. Just give it half an hour to load. After this recording, you'll be able to see all the goodness, because there's I think we've done some good stuff today, haven't we? We've done some anatomy, we've done some management, we've done some pathology, we've done some herbs. Almost like being at vet school, except for the herbs. Any other? Let's have a look. We'll just take one question here from Claire Oakes. I have 7 mixed breed hens, 4 are almost constantly broody any time of the year, including winter, and 1 was broody for 90 plus days. Oof, that's a bind in more ways than one. Losing quite a lot of weight, although I have tried several different methods to stop the broodiness. Okay, well, lavender is a good idea to take down any anxiety levels. What else would I do? If what we sometimes do is we will to try and dissuade them, we will try and get them out and about more, because all they want to do is just sit indoors and sit on their eggs to the exclusion of all else, including eating, which is not a great idea. So we try and encourage them out and see if we can kind of just brighten them up like that. If you're having major problems, just drop me an email, either to me at my email or to the good people at Verm-X, and we'll be able to talk to you about that. There we go. Philippa Murphy says, yeah, sauerkraut is horrible and it's a killer. Yeah, so I think it's worth doing the upside down. If you're not comfortable doing it, take them to the vets, okay, and they'll help you with that. So there you go, guys. I can't believe the time has flown. It's been great. I haven't talked about chickens for a long time, so it's really nice. And like I said, when the light was here, the chickens were there clucking about outside. I'm going to let you go. We'll see you next week at 8:05 on Thursday for another of the Gut Doctor. Remember, live chat 15, live chat in capital letters 15. If you want some cut price product, sign up for the newsletter, because then we can get you lots of information. And I'm going to wish you good health, and I'm going to wish you a happy, gentle weekend. And I hope the sun shines on you in so many ways. Thanks very much.